band in Trinidad.
Yo!
Yeah. Check. 1, 2, 3, 4.
God damn it! Hey,
Bad boy.
you know we crazy.
This is Burdie. And, well, Barney is nowhere to be found tonight on the Burdie and Barney show. He will tell you it's because of really bad traffic on the Uriah Butler Highway. But it just so happens that our guest tonight and Barney have a history that dates back almost to black and white television. Tonight we have one of Trinidad and Tobago's most gifted footballers of all time. And when I say one of, I know I'm probably going to get some angry responses from the members of the public, you know, but let's be kind. 2006 World Cup playmaker, the little magician, otherwise known as Russell Latapy. Good night, Russell. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, a pleasure. How you doing?
I'm all right.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, man.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. You know, we hope that Barney joins us soon. You have any comforting words for Barney, Russell?
Listen, this is all I would say for now. Some things never change. The man always late.
Probably late in the tackle too, I guess.
That is all I say.
So Russell, how did you treat today in Barbados?
Listen, we trying to develop the program here and the football here, and so far things are moving in a positive direction, and I'm happy with it.
All right. I know in Trinidad we have this thing where we tell our employees one salary in football. We write down one salary on paper. We promise them a second salary verbally, and then pay them wherever we feel like. Barbados had that same system?
Not that I know of. You know, I am dealing with good, straight up people, and we have an agreement, and obviously both parties are trying to honor and that agreement in the best possible way.
Must really be Little England then. Doesn't sound like how we do things here, but glad to know it's working out well. They're enjoying the change.
Yeah. It's I mean, it's always. I think it's for me. This has always been about job satisfaction as well, and trying to make a difference. And I think you know what I'm seeing here is that I'm making a difference in a lot of young people's lives, and there's a good feeling that goes along with that.
Yeah, well, Barney sent me a video of Niall Stephen Reed about a year or so ago. And I didn't watch the whole thing, you know. I was too envious, you know, because we don't have any teenagers playing like that in Trinidad right now. You know, tell me about this boy's qualities.
No, he's we have a lot of quality players here, right? I think the DSU really was just guiding them in a way that they understand that there is a process in relation to achieving goals and success, you know, and once they understand that, then it's a lot easier to achieve these goals. But this kid, I mean, he have everything really. I ain't even sure yet what is his best position, so I kind of use him in positions where that the team needs him more, kind of thing, you know.
Yeah.
But you can play him. You could play him as a defensive midfielder. You could play him as an offensive midfielder. You could play him as an out and out left winger. You could play him as a striker, a 9 or 10. You know, the kid could play football, and he's got wonderful left foot.
Yeah, for sure. Look forward to seeing more of him. You know, hopefully we get someone. We're hoping to have some young talent coming through here as well in Trinidad, but still it's good to see, you know. I mean, sorry.
I mean, at home we always have a lot of talented players as well, you know, and that has never stopped. You know, it's I think it's always difficult when you're in a downward spiral for a lot of bright things to happen. But I'm sure there's a lot of talented players at home. I know I saw a lot when I was working at youth level at home. You know?
Right. Are you surprised not to see more of the young men you worked with in the team already?
I think this is stages, and times. So the thing is, at the time that I work with some of the players, they were the players that they will be the better players at that time.
Yeah.
But I mean, a year or two down the road, everything changes. There's always somebody else who is doing his work and who is going to get ahead in the queue.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that these players, some of them that I work with, are quality players, and at some point they will be back in the national setup.
Yeah. Now, you come from an era, yourself, Dwight York, Shaka Hislop, and you all did all right. You all did okay.
Yeah, not too bad,
Not too
not too
bad.
shabby.
You know?
Yeah.
No, we not gain players gain anywhere near to that level now. What is it? Have we fallen behind? Has the rest of the world advanced? And what do you think it is?
I think it's a combination of a lot of different things. But I think in terms, and it's both ways. I think in terms of administration and in terms of players taking responsibility upon themselves, I think it works both ways. Again, it's well documented, all the stuff that is happening with the governing body. So I think that in itself, makes football difficult. You know, but on top of that, and that's another issue and another conversation for another time. But I think if I'm understanding well where you're trying to go with this, I would say that I think that the players, they have a responsibility as well, and to try to become the best that they can. And the reality is sometimes we can see that some players are not willing to make certain sacrifices at important times.
Well, talk about some of the sacrifices that you made when you were developing as a young player. When did your development start? How did it start?
I think really I was really fortunate that that Jean Lillywhite, he coached me, and he taught me the basics of the game, and he taught me what the game was really about.
How old were you then?
I would have been 12.
12.
So I would have worked with Jar from roughly, I would think, yeah, somewhere 11, 12 until maybe 15, 16, somewhere along there. And these were vital years for me where I was taught the fundamentals of the game, in terms of the technical side of the game, controlling, passing, left foot, right foot, that sort of stuff. So I think, and again, at that age, I was already playing international football for Trinidad at under 12 and under 14.
Okay.
So these experiences are invaluable, really. That I would think that at youth level, by the time I was 14, I would have already had maybe 12 games.
Yeah.
So that experience is really, really invaluable. That you're confident enough that you can go and you can play against anyone.
But that would mean that your first national cap, you barely had any coach then you at all. What were you doing?
Yeah. Well, again, the thing is I grew up in a family and in a community that played a lot of small ball. Three aside small goal. So my family is ball players, my uncles, my brothers, so forth.
And this is in
So
Mova?
I just always grew up with in Laventille.
Right.
Just always grew up with a ball somewhere close, the whole community. So I think that definitely helped in my early years before I really started to get coaching. But once it started to get coaching, and again, I give credit to Ja, that he developed the technical side of my game, which allowed me to play into my later years.
All right. That's Very interesting. What were those sessions like? Do you recall?
Yeah, a lot of it was obstacle training with the ball, dribbling in between cones and finishing at the end. A lot of one-on-ones in terms of controlling the ball from different ranges, different heights, and doing it constantly. That's we'd have a lot of sessions pretty much based on controlling and passing the ball,
Yeah.
right? So that was the basis of a lot of these sessions coming up as a kid.
Are there anything you see academies doing right now, and you think that something is missing? Is there anything that you feel they should be focusing on more now, youth coaches?
I just think that times change, and I think we had to adapt accordingly. There is a lot of people who kind of think, and in some way, there's an argument for it that we missing the whole side of it. Is too much academy football, and the players are like robots and that sort of stuff, right? And in one way, we kind of lose touch with our dribbling and the technical side, really, and the touch of the ball. But I would say as a coach as well that I think it's fundamental sometimes, a lot of times, to work with players who can understand what you're trying to bring over. And I think that happens a lot with academy players, that because they come into a system, they tend to understand a system and adapt to working with a system a lot better. So, I think if you can get the combination, it's two in a player, then that's the type of player that it's good working with.
Yeah. Now, apart from Jean Lillywhite, I heard the story was wherever there was a football ground, somebody could run into you. You'd be there with a ball, almost your height, your size or something. How often did you play football in those days?
No, I think football for games and young players are a bit more organized now and more regulated. But back in my day, what we had was a lot of little leagues all over. So you had the Valley League, and then you had the Mova League, and you have the schoolyard, you had Chinapu. So in reality, I would go and just play football in everywhere I could pretty much get a game, and and it was different types of football. So it would be small goal, 5-a-side. It would be, 7-a-side in the valley, and so it was just football I was playing all over. So I don't know if that answers your question.
I'm not sure how much small goal football is being played these days. I always said since the foreign car market started up big time, the poor kids can't play small goal in the road anymore. They'll get knocked down.
Yeah.
What are we missing with small goal as well? You think it's something that we really ought to try to keep going?
I think firstly it's a fun type of football. I think that you develop a lot of things there, depending if it's 3-a-side or 5-a-side or whatever. But I think you develop a good concept for spaces, depending on how big some of the fields are, and knowing that you have to work together in these spaces if you want to have greater success. So I think that is one of the things that small goal does, on top of you having to control and play the ball in really tight and small spaces, So I've always been a big fan of small goal, obviously, because it's fun to play as well, and you really have a lot of contact with the ball, and I like that.
When they talk about spaces, you sound like a engineer or architect there. What's your secret in terms of trying to give yourself more time to play, to see more of the field and your teammates? How do you get the edge over your opponents? And when did you develop it?
I think again that was for me, that was Jean Lillywhite and just developing my first touch. So I think one of the things that Ja really did for me is that he allowed me and he taught me to play with my hands up in the air, and that allows you to have a very good balance, right? And but you protect the ball doing that as well. So with playing with my hands in the air, then my shoulders and my head kind of stayed up in the air as well. So then I can see the opponents, although I'm looking at the ball, and just my first touch kind of go in the direction that I wanted to take the play, which most times I try to play forward. So
yeah. Well, we joined here now by Barney.
He finally reached.
He finally reached. I mean, the terror was real, you know.
Russell, what's going on? Don't let us.
All is well. How you doing, man?
I
You're in traffic in that place,
Don't let that man lead you astray, brother. Don't let that man
Not at all.
Russell says safe today. He only a couple thousand miles. How far away is Barbados?
Listen, all this talk. I play against Russell in 2 games. In one game in SSFL. And I stay far enough away. I stay on the other side of the field and watch the destruction. We lose a Sandotech 1-0 down in Guayacara Park. And that 1-0 was like, we win 2-0. So that was good enough for me. Yeah, that's not Russell. I jumping in the conversation here. Because, and again, any cues from this man across from the terrible world they reach. But I wanted to talk to you about the 2 World Cup qualifiers that you played so far, and in particularly the one against Angola.
Yeah.
Right. I jumping in blind here.
Yeah, you're jumping blindly, but go ahead.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Go ahead.
That's how you tackle. That's how you tackle.
I'll get to you after. In particular, your use of
Niall.
Yeah. What's his
Niall Stephen Reed.
Niall Stephen Reed. It so happened that I had found out about the young man a couple of months before. I'd actually shared a video.
Yeah, we talk about that as
well.
Right.
Yeah.
But
I was surprised in the position that you used him. As I was expecting to see him coming from a deeper position, like from a 10 or from a 7 coming off the wing onto his left foot. Any thoughts on that? You know,
absolutely.
You're the man training with him, so you would know, what's going on. So I was interested in hearing why.
Right. So the thing is that I don't think we found his best position in the national team yet, right? So we still tinkering a little bit with him because he's so talented. He can play in various positions, right? So we can use him, as you say, coming off of the left side. We can use him coming off of the right side, coming on to the left foot, where he hit the ball really well. You can use him as an offensive midfielder, or you can use him as a number 6 as a defensive midfielder. He's talented like that, the boy.
Yeah.
What really happened with us is that he and you can use him as a 9 or 10 also, right? I mean, for us, we a couple of our foreign players who are strikers that we kind of missed out on them because of the travel COVID situation, and it was just a better fit for us to use him up top number 9 because if he gets chances, he was scored.
Right.
Really.
So we're talking about your own development. Now we know that you got a lot of confidence playing against Barney. But tell me, when was the breakthrough for you in terms of at a national level? Did it come at youth level? Was it the strike squad? Was it school football? When did that come?
I think was a bit of everything, a combination of everything. I just always loved playing football, and like we established before, I would go and play football, in all the little leagues. I mean, on a Sunday, I would play a game in the morning, and then play a different one at 11 o'clock, and then maybe finish off the Sunday evening with a game at 4 o'clock. That's how it was, and maybe I still get some small goal in the night in Chinapoo. Who knows? But that's how it was for us back in the day.
Yeah.
Right. So I think all of that was part of my development. But I suppose getting onto the national team at 17 was really a big thing for me, because then it kind of threw you into to football with real men, and you're not a kid anymore having fun. You really have to make tough decisions if this is what you want to do with your life or not. So I would think that would be an important phrase or period in my development or making decisions to do football as a career.
And he pointed out that even at 14, 15, you already played like 12 times for Trinidad. What are those youth games? What did you learn from them? How did they make it easier for you to transition to the senior team and to be a better player?
Well, I think the first thing really when you play at that level is that you want to know that you can compete with the other teams who you're playing against, and again, I think I grew up in a fortunate time that we were able to win a lot of things and have good results. It's always different when you're winning than when things are not going so well. So, we had players, as we mentioned, we had the Shackers and the Carlos Lees and the Kona Hislop's and the Clint Marcel. So we grew up playing football at a time that good young players and we were winning things.
As an amateur teenager and you're playing against professional adult players, what was it like, being able to compare yourself to those guys, to face them on the field essentially? What was it feeling like?
Well, I think the first thing for me was really kind of trusting and believing in your ability. And, you kind of watch football on TV and you see what these players doing, and you challenge yourself to be able to do the same things if put in the same position. And international games is really a situation that you're lining up alongside these players, and you're saying to yourself, okay, well, there's the opportunity now to really see if you can compete. And I think really once you get to that point that you realize that you can compete, then you realize that you could do a little more than compete, and beat these people as well, and perform to a higher standard than them.
Do you remember anything you saw foreign players doing that you added to your own game? Whether it is at youth level or beyond, senior level?
Yeah, I think it was just little tricks of the trade, but that was to improve on my game. The thing, I never really, a lot of people talk about me dribbling and that sort of stuff, but I never really consider myself really a dribbler. I never really pick up the ball and kind of just go in and dribble. I always thought that I would dribble in a way so I wouldn't lose the ball and to help the team, if that makes sense here. I wasn't one of these players to really take up the ball in the wing and do 16 crossovers and that kind of thing, It was my kind of football, But the things that really added to my game was, just leaning on somebody and pushing off for them before you go and receive the ball, so you can give yourself an extra second or an extra yard or two, So it's just little things like that once, for me, once I got to Europe and training day in, day out with top professionals, then you realize these are the little things that would improve your game.
Okay. Yeah, very, very interested. The 1990 campaign, the strike squad, tell me what that meant for you at the time. Is it something now you have had 2006, obviously. Do you still remember that first World Cup qualifying campaign?
Of course. Yeah, that's
What was special about
amazing.
it? Tell us about it.
Well, for me, what was really special about it, and I have to give a lot of credit to our coach, Gally Cummings, because to me, what was special about it, it was us doing it for ourselves. If you know what I mean, that we had a local coach and we had local players, and we were capable to reach the heights. The coach gave us a system and he gave us a belief, not only as players but a whole nation, that we could have our identity, and we can work on it and we can develop it, and it's a good and exciting identity. So and I think a lot of things that I learned under Gali in that campaign sticks with me until today, because I have very similar beliefs that we have to figure out a way to do it ourselves. And I think with Gali, it was evident as well, because we were so strong at the time. We really had two teams because of how the leagues were scheduled at the time. So I believe during the World Cup at the time, we not far off of it, we had the Shell Cup or something like that as well.
Correct.
So right. So we had two different teams, right? So in saying that, one of the things that really stood out for me a lot of times was when we played the Central American teams, because we always had good battles with them. And I think that is where we were seeing ourselves at the time, getting to the level to compete with these teams, right? So the Guatemalas, the Honduras, the Costa Ricas, the Panamas, these were the games at the time, the El Salvadors, that always stays with you.
Was there a particular game that yeah, afterwards you and your teammates felt that we could go all the way?
I think that was a feeling that we got from the coach right from the beginning, really. Right. I think Gally, being the genius that he is and the player that he was, and the coach that he is, I think he put us into a system that suited our strengths perfectly, right? That made us difficult to break down, but also allowed our creative players the freedom to play football, right? So it was just easy for us, really. We just played to the system that we had to play, and then that way we were competing, right? So I would think from day one we just kind of trusted the coach and believed in him, and this is what we were doing, and this is how we're going to play. And if we play this way and we do it well enough, we have a chance to win. And I think really, I think in some of these early games, when you realize that we were creating chances and winning games, then I think you get a bigger buy-in to the philosophy.
Russell, now that time passed and you could spill the beans and share the secrets. Go a little deeper into the
Which ones?
No,
Not plenty secrets and plenty beans.
But I stayed with the football. I stayed with the football. In terms of the system that we played during that qualifying campaign, specific to your position, could you tell us some of the instructions that you were given in terms of, probably something related to a specific opponent, or in general, what was your role, for example, in that system?
I think really that everybody had to be responsible again for their area, for their spaces. And I don't remember anything too specific. I just know that everybody had to be responsible to do their jobs. So if you're an offensive midfielder, when we don't have the ball, you have to get back in the right shape. When you're closer to the ball, you had to be the first one to put pressure on it. That sort of thing. So I think was everybody had a role within the system, and you just had to do it as best as you could.
So what you're trying to say is you ain't changed from since you're a youth player, but you still don't like to do defensive work, boy. You still ain't changed, boy.
Well, listen, they say that the defense is when you're the league, right?
Yeah.
But in order to win the league, you have to win the game too.
You always had a good argument. You always had a good argument.
November 19th, Russell. What happened? We had Hudson on. Recently, we haven't.
we had Barber on, right? And we had a beautiful show, and then our man pressed the wrong button, and we have no show recorded. So.
We not holding against Barney too much.
Not good.
Boy,
Yeah.
man, ridiculous.
Listen, it would be interesting. It would be interesting for me as well after all this time, to hear other players' view of really what happened. Or on November 19th.
Yeah.
But
from your point of view, what happened?
Listen,
there was the night before we heard the long travel to the venue, all sorts,
the church service.
The church service.
No. I think really we weren't ready as a nation. I mean, we can point a finger at a lot of different things. Right, at the travel, but in reality, we did the same travel for most of the other games that we played, and we won those games. I think the whole carnival atmosphere that we had before on our journey, I think that take a little bit of focus and energy out of it, and I mean, I thought we were a little flat on the day, which wasn't normal for us. We were playing a high energy kind of game and not letting people play and going at people. But and which is my reason that I would say that we weren't ready as a nation, and I think a consequence of not qualifying is that unqualifying for the 206 is that a lot of these things that we experienced in '89, we were able to do better in 2006.
More or less, we had to make the mistakes first to then see the right way to do it.
I think that is actually what happened, because some of the mistakes that we made in '89. I think again, once a lot of people went outside and see how things were being done and had a better understanding, then we were able to correct a lot of different mistakes that we made. But I mean, in general, I don't think we were ready in 1989 as a footballing country.
Before we reach Portugal, what part did Jamaica play in molding Russell Latapy as being able to make that next step?
Yeah, big part in terms of that's when I kind of became an adult, because I had to kind of look after myself. I went to Jamaica at 17 years old. And before that, you always had the security at home, your mom, family, that kind of thing. So I spent 2.5 years in Jamaica, and the owner of the team, a wonderful guy, Tony Barrett. This guy, he just loved football, and he wanted to have the best team in Jamaica. So he brought in a few players from around the Caribbean and the US and so forth, and we had a lot of Jamaican national players as well, who Peter Cargill and guys like this, fantastic guys. And listen, we had a very strong team. and we made a lot of waves in Jamaica within this period. You know, coming from a team from nowhere to playing in finals and so forth.
I remember Leonson told me a story once, Russell. He said that in Jamaica, he did a bicycle kick. I can't remember if he scored the goal or not. And he said that you came to him and warned him and said that, now they'll expect you to do that every week. Talk about the demands of professionalism,
Yeah. That's one of the things. That's actually, I got scared there for a minute because that's actually one of the good stories.
This man have plenty bones in our closet, boy.
No,
Yes.
I remember a little time watching pro football in Britain, right? And what stuck with me, Russell, is that in Trinidad, one of our, I wouldn't call names, but a player in Trinidad would have a 9 out of 10 performance this week. And you'd have to wait another month or two for him to have another 9 out of 10. And he'd be getting 3s and 2s. And I noticed in England, you had your Darren Fletchers and so on, who were just a steady 5 and 6, but you knew what they get in every week.
Yeah.
And I realized, what coaches or what people look for in the professional game as opposed to in the amateur game when it's just entertainment. How?
Absolutely.
Yeah, talk about your adjustment to that now when they're playing for serious money across in Portugal.
Yeah, well, the thing is that along with your wages, there is also a lot of bonuses to be won, right?
Okay.
So that's the financial aspect of it, that you want to stay in the team. But I also think that it is most importantly about your pride as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, you're training every day and you're trying to improve, and I know the man next to you is training every day and wants to improve. But the thing is that wherever you go, you want to play. So you work towards that, right? And in order to do that and to maintain your position in the team, is week in, week out, you have to perform, and there's no two ways about that. And not only on match day, but on training day as well. You have to come every training session and you have to work hard. And I think because that is a culture in Europe, then I think the standard of the football and the players automatically is a lot higher.
Okay. How long did it take for you to acclimatize, to adjust?
To be on time.
Seriously, you know what? It didn't take long at all. As long as you realize that one thing is if you don't follow the rules, you lose money. And if you follow the rules and you keep yourself on the team, then you have a chance of making some money. So I think that was very simple maths. If you reach late, you will get fined. You're losing money,
And we ain't trying to lose that at all.
Well, the thing is, though, unfortunately, in amateur football, which is really harder because in professional football at times, I mean, back in my day, you were making the amounts of money that the players now are making, So if they get fined a grand or 2 or 3 or 4 or 10 or whatever, it don't make a difference to some of these boys and the money that they make. But back in my day, you don't really want to get these fines. You know what I mean? So big difference.
I remember talking to you after I think it's a Norway game here at the Oval, and yeah, and you were pointing out that because you had to come for you were pointing out I think it was the conversation had to do with the 5-year anniversary of the 89 game. I think we had a game against USA to commemorate that.
Yeah.
And you were talking about just because you came for that game didn't fall on an official window at that point in time or whatever, that you were losing, how much money you were losing because, and people don't understand that in Trinidad, that every time you come for a game in those days outside of a official FIFA window, or whatever, that you're off the squad, you're losing money for. I mean, you were pointing out there were some things in your contract, like if you scored, if you assisted, if the team kept a clean sheet, all of these were bonuses that you would have been missing out on. Tell us about that sort of mental space you'd be in, that knowing that you're coming for something and you at the same time you're losing. You're losing out on.
I mean, the thing is we had a friendship, a camaraderie. The players that we believe in our time that we could really do something positive and take Trinidad and Tobago football forward. So we always made the sacrifices to come back and represent Trinidad. But the truth is that a lot of times that we did that, we did it at personal financial loss, that in terms of if you're in the team, and sometimes you play a game outside of the window, and then the team wins. The manager ain't really going and change the team. I mean, I've been in situations that it take me 6-7 weeks to get back in the team, really, because the team going on a run. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it is these kind of situations that players experience back in the day. But again, it's Trinidad, it's home, and to me, it was a sacrifice that with all the traveling and so forth. But it was always really energizing on another level to get back home and see family and friends and be with and play with the people that you grew up playing football with, So that was always something that I look forward to as well. But there was always challenges with that situation back in the day, because there was no FIFA windows.
When you look back at your professional career, what would be you think your biggest move? Would it have been Porto, you would say? Or would it have been coming in Scotland?
I think how I look at it really for me was that it was both important periods in my career. The thing is, I played for a really long time. I played until I was 40, so I was really playing at one point in my life with boys who could have been my kids. So it's a funny kind of thing sometimes. So Porto for me was really a situation that I went to Porto at 25, and I thought that was really the point that I understood the tactical side of the game, and that football wasn't really one-dimensional that I thought it was, which is really just playing with your feet, controlling and passing, Porto for me was teaching me how you move people about and how you run into spaces and that sort of thing. So that was that phase. But then the Scotland phase for me was also a period that was amazing, because when I went to Scotland at 29, and I just felt like I had nothing to prove. I played Champions League. I'd had so many games on the national team playing at that level. So it just allowed me to go out and really enjoy my football, And then I bounced up a manager in Alex McLeish, firstly, who just allowed me to go out and play football and create. And then later, after Alex, was obviously Yogi, who were just two managers who, and with Yogi, I was a bit older as well. And he knew that defensively, if you ask me to defend, you're not gonna get all my creative energy because I mean, at 35 years old, I just couldn't do it.
Mhm.
You know, so that period in Scotland, when especially at Falkirk at 35, I just played every game like was the last game that I was going to play because I just didn't know. I knew that any time it could have been the last game, So that was really a fun period.
And as you're speaking about managers, tell me about Bobby Robson, and I think Mourinho would have been there at the time as well as a translator, was it? What do you
Yeah,
pick up at that point?
translator, assistant coach. Yeah.
Yeah. Tell us what that was like. What was he like? Both people.
Yeah. Always a really good relationship. His man management of the players, his relationship with the players, and this is Mourinho in this case we're talking about.
Mhm.
Always really good. I mean, he was a nice bridge in between the staff and the players. He was still fairly young at the time as well. So yeah. And then and he was learning from the master himself, Bobby, who his football knowledge was absolutely amazing.
Mhm.
Um, just a little story, that we kind of tell about Bobby is that, within one of these league campaigns, you'd be on the bench and he would make a change and you would think that, oh, he just take off our best player there, why would he do that? And then the player who replaces him scores a goal to win or creates something or assists, and then think that's he just got lucky there, But then you don't get lucky 10 times in the season, you know what I mean? So it was just his amazing football knowledge that he can see things that we can see as players. We're looking at individual performances, and he's looking at the function within the unit.
It's funny, Russell, at that point in time, I'm not sure that we covered that much football live here the way you do now. Was it a little strange for you? You come back here and people not sure what you're doing or how you're playing over there, and you're playing for Porto.
No, listen, that was actually a really good and refreshing thing for me. That I wasn't caught up in the whole, but in Portugal, really, there is three big teams in Portugal.
Mhm.
And now there's a Fort Braga, but there's a Benfica, there's Sporting Lisbon, and there's Porto.
Mhm.
And these three teams playing at home under normal circumstances are getting 35, 40,000. So, they're big teams and they're from the big city. So they're massive following, So once you're there and you're playing for these teams, there is no hiding.
Mhm.
Lasana touched on player ratings before, but did you?
Mhm.
I know in all the Portuguese, the main leagues, the fans, and the media, they go overboard. So they would be rating people even in the practice sessions. Have you ever picked up the paper in Portugal and saw that they gave you a bad performance, a bad rating or something like that? Or was your time there, normal Russell Latapy on top of everything?
Nah, man. Listen, man. Professional football is brutal, man. When when you don't win, everybody just feel the pinch, man. So yeah. Sometimes you play a game, the team in win, or the expectations of the fans were a little higher than the actual result. And they're not happy, and they let the voices be heard once they're not happy. So I've picked it up and get 4 out of 10 and all these things already. But I mean, at the end of the day, the way that I've always seen things is like this. My rating isn't really so important because I understood straight away that if I play in a winning team, then I would have more things in my favor than really, my own personal ratings.
Did you ever have an opportunity to play for a team or a league or in a league that you didn't take at the time, and you look back and you say, that would have been really interesting?
Yeah, I think I had a couple of things that fell through that I thought that at the time I would have liked the challenge,
Well, as Barney would say, spill the beans, man.
No, I had an opportunity at one point to go to Italy. And then I had another opportunity.
Which team in Italy?
I know what I'm saying. We had to drag it out there. Which team in Italy?
Barney will tackle you again, so.
Oh, you skip that.
I was you're always late.
Hey, I find you started to sound like these people.
No, there were talks with Sampdoria back in the day that there was a possible move that eventually fell through. And then in England there was a possible move at one point to Villa, at one point to Ipswich, at another point. That's the kind of thing that it would have been interesting. I was a bit older in relation to the two English clubs. But still, you kind of think that it would have been interesting to. But who knows?
Yeah. In football, they say sometimes when they come from a big team, mentally you're not the same, lose some of that hunger, let's say. You leave a Manchester United.
Gosh,
Barney would want to say Real Madrid,
I know it was when it's Manchester
and,
United.
You kind of lose that same passion, but obviously you played for a long time afterwards. What was the secret behind your appetite for the game, really?
I could answer that. The man was a ball whole from birth, boy. I can't.
Listen, that's exactly what happened there.
You needed to see this fella when you were small,
I just couldn't stay away from the game, and I was still having a lot of fun playing. I would say that I went through a difficult period at the end of my time at Rangers, and really at 35 I went back to Portugal, and I thought that okay, I'll try to get into my coaching and that sort of stuff. And I would just retire from football. And then John Hughes, who was my manager at Falkirk, that's when he got his first full-time job. And he kind of said to me, listen, come and play for me for a year. And I really, when I crunched the numbers, I kind of said to him, listen, it doesn't make sense to me to come over there and what you're offering me to really play. I had to take money out of my pocket to live here, kind of thing.
High maintenance there, so.
well, listen. When you had to move to somewhere else, you had to make sure that you're making enough to live in that place, right? that only makes sense,
Yeah.
Survival 101.
You understand? Because listen, your football wouldn't be good if you go somewhere and you're uncomfortable, if you're cold, if you're unhappy. If you had to think about these things, then you might as well just forget football one time. If you're comfortable to that level,
Yeah.
So.
And you got on 6 years after that.
Yeah. And then what happened is that he said to me at the time, after he said, well, listen, I can't really pay you the kind of money that you want, but what I can offer you is that I can offer you a job as one of the coaches. And I thought straight away, I went, that's something that I'd definitely be interested in. So then I was still playing and doing my coaching courses and that sort of stuff. So I was playing in the first team, and I was responsible for the second team. So it was a sacrifice at the time, and it was tough because in reality, I really didn't have too much rest because then I still had to train with the first team, but then I had to come back and do the second team in the evening or do the reserve games and that sort of stuff, But I suppose it was a question of preparing me for what I'm doing now.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Looking at your international career, which went for a very long time as well, right? First up, I believe the best Trinidad team I've seen wasn't actually the 2006 team or the 1989 team. I thought it was the 2002 World Cup qualifying team. Yeah. What you think about that? I think you guys were at your peak and the squad had that balance. What are your thoughts?
No, I thought, it's like you said. I think we were at our peak there. We were strong, but I think the record speaks for itself. And when you look back, you had to go the best team. Is the team that qualified?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
The 2006 team is the team that got the result that everybody wanted, which was to get Trinidad and Tobago to the World Cup.
Because I think in terms of talent is not the only ingredient that you need to have success, right? Mm-hmm. You need a couple more ingredients in there, and I think in 2006 we were able to put everything together. Some of the things that we probably didn't have before.
Yeah, but I think, Lasana, talking from a pure spectator point of view, aesthetic point of view, in terms of looking at the football, the 2002 team, the team around that time, was a team that was playing at a particular pace with a particular flair that, it's hard. It was hard, or it is hard for me to look back and match any of the other teams with that particular style of play. I can remember...
what we did to Mexico for one at the stadium, when you scored the goal off Dwight's layup, for instance.
Yeah, that 1-0. Yeah.
But in Canada,
what year we played a warm-up game against Norway in the Oval?
No, that would have been earlier.
It was earlier.
Yeah, that would have been like
That's
95, somewhere around there.
So early, man?
Yeah.
No, not 95. Maybe
94.
No, it was later than that because of where I remember it because of where I was working at the time.
Nah, I think it was 94. All right, Russell?
No.
I don't remember the year. I remember the game. I scored a hat-trick in the game.
Yeah, I know. That's why I bring it up. And that game, the play in that game, is one that I could rival.
No, I could tell you why I remember the year a little bit better, Russell. Here's why.
He was on a rape charge.
But producer had to edit that out. Anyway. I think before the game, I asked Russell for an autograph and a picture. And Irvin Ward was his senior sport reporter then. And he went back and snitched to the boss and me.
Irvin Ward, wherever you are, we want to thank you.
I would say that I remember in that game, I believe that Oli Gunner was down there in that game.
Yeah, and
Torrey Andre Flo as well. And
Torrey played in that game as well.
Yeah.
Right. It could be 94. It could be 94. Mm-hmm. I'll win our bet. But yes. that game, that team, that time, going from there into the demolition of Panama.
Yeah, 6-0.
The demolition of Panama at the Oval as well, the 6-0. Mm-hmm. I thought from that period up until that 2002, I thought Trinidad was at its peak then.
Yeah. What about the Gold Cup 2000? When we got to the semi-final,
Yeah.
Talk about what was football like at that point in time. Tell us what do you remember from that tournament?
Again, we had a bunch of players who were gaining a lot of experience playing in Europe. So and we were young, we were strong in our peak kind of thing. We were playing in top clubs, top leagues. And we were bringing that all together with the national team. That Gold Cup. I can remember my first Gold Cup. And you know, we were just fearless.
Mm-hmm.
We would go and we would compete against anybody, and we were excited, and that is the Trinidad football that I think about and I remember. You
No,
know.
no, we had Bertil on a little while ago, and he snitched on you. He said he was supposed to take a penalty against Canada. You remember
Uh-huh.
that?
Not at all.
Great answer.
I
Great
honestly don't.
I
But
get
look,
drop shoulder there,
but
boy.
look, if the coach say that, if Coach Bertil say that, trust me, I believe him.
Great answer. That's good deception. But in addition to those players that you spoke about, then you would have also had the younger guys coming in, being introduced into the squad. I think Angus and they were coming into the squad at that point.
Yeah,
in
I
time,
guess. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
How was it for you? How was it for you at that point in time? You know, what was your relation or your position in the squad as a leader in relation to there's Russell Latapy and Dwight York, the two biggest names in our national setup at that point in time. Did you take it upon? Did you guys take it upon yourselves to try to assist the younger players into integrating into the team? Or what did you see as your role at that point in time?
No. Again, I think a lot of these things that you eventually you live is things that you learn. So we were fortunate that I come up under Brian Williams, Stuart Charles, Garnet Craig, Anthony Street. So these were the type of players who would always take young players as we say back in the day under the wing and kind of guide them and protect them and look after them, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we had older players who did this to us, and I think we try to do this to the younger players, you know. Once we saw younger players who were talented, then you kind of take them and you pull them aside and you help guide them in the right direction and give them advice that hopefully one day, you know, they can get an opportunity to play professional football, that sort of stuff. So yeah, and a lot of them as well, you know, all the young kids back in the day, we try to look after them.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned the 06 had what the 02 team didn't have. You could explain what made the 06 team different to the 02 team? What gave you all the success?
I suppose it was just everything coming together at the right time. You know, but in reality, as you would know, that even part of the 06 team, I came in pretty late into the setup, you know.
Fashionably late.
Yeah. You know, I played in three different decades for the national team, and I played with fathers and sons and that sort of stuff. So at one point, you had to kind of tell yourself that, you know, okay, it's enough, and let young players have the opportunity to see if they can carry the torch, you know. And in 2006, I was actually on my way to work. So I was living roughly about 45 minutes from where I worked. And Dwight was, I believe he was playing in Blackbird at the time, and he had like an hour drive to work. So most mornings we would chat, and funnily enough, a lot of the conversations were really unrelated to football. But he had now come back from one of the games, and within the conversation, I kind of said to him, "Listen, how was the game?" You know, so he talked me through the game and that kind of thing. And then at the end, he kind of said, well, there's one piece of the puzzle was missing. You know, I was like 35 years old and retired. And I kind of knew exactly where he was coming with. So, yeah. So then I said to him, yeah. I said, okay, I'll come back and play the 2 games, and these 2 games, I believe, is Guatemala,
Mm.
was it Mexico, whoever, and then we
Guatemala
had
and
2
so
more
on, yeah.
games. Yeah, and so that was the event. So when if the reality is, I said I'd play these 2 games, and if we didn't get the desired result, then the other 2 games wouldn't matter anyway, so I wouldn't play. But we got the results against Guatemala, and then after we had 2 more games, and if we won these 2 games, we get into the playoff. So then I said, okay, obviously I come back for the 2 games, and then so I really went to the World Cup with playing 6 games. You know,
You sign up for a short term contract there. You was going game by game.
which is what happened. But remember, I do a lot of work the years before too, right?
Correct. Nobody can be vexed with you for that at all. Matter of fact, we had a when we talked to Dwight, we had to give Dwight a special thank you.
Russell, what was it like meeting Beenhakker for the first time? How did he compare to our other national coaches?
um, I think his experience, for me, one of the coaches, he was able to get all our strengths. He understood our weaknesses, and he was just able to pull all of us together. I think one of the things that he had as well was a really mature and settled squad. So we played at the level we could play to instructions. We understood the tricks of the trade. When you bounce somebody, when you stand in the way, not to let them chase. So we had a lot of things. I think, if I remember correctly, that we had, I think, the oldest or second oldest squad at the 2006 World Cup. We had myself, Dwight. We had quite a few boys. Shaka, you
Yeah,
know
Ian
what I
Cox and
mean?
so on, yeah.
Yeah. We were way up there in our early 30s and middle and late 30s, really.
Shaka would
So
Shaka would try to tell you different. Kill him dead. He's a teenager or something.
man is as old as he feels, right?
Some people get bad feelings on how to take Andrew's liver cells, brother.
But Russell, you ended up, you played in one game in the Germany World Cup, and yet it was still the talking point of the tournament because fans, till today, they want to stone Beenhakker because he didn't play anymore. What was the World Cup experience like, and how did you cope yourself with that?
No. You see, there's things that I would speak about now that I think with all the time gone, then I think it's okay to mention some things.
Mm-hmm.
So the reality is that once we qualified, I had a conversation with the coach Beenhakker, and I think I was 36 at the time, and I kind of said to him that no, not kind of. I said to him really that if he wanted to take a young player, I was fine with it because I didn't think that as a player, uh, um, I would have benefited too much from the World Cup. For me, I achieved what I wanted to achieve, which was by helping the national team to qualify for the World Cup. But again, he insisted that he wanted me to go, and again, I was delighted for the opportunity because it was a dream come true, right? I think the first game against Sweden, once we went down to 10 men, I think it was difficult upon a 36, 37-year-old once you're down to 10 men,
Mm-hmm.
So, and we did really well to keep the result. Now that I'm coaching and I've looked back at the England game and thing, and and it's always about respecting the coach and his decision and how he sees it. But yeah, because that is what coaching is. It's making a call at a time, and it's a difficult decision. But as a coach now, when I look back at the England game, I thought that maybe 15 minutes of that game, they were backing us up. They were taking defenders off. And I look at it and I thought maybe if, I got on and maybe able to hold the ball up for us and create something, it would have stemmed the momentum of the game a little bit. But listen, who knows? That's hindsight. And then obviously Paraguay, I played at 25 minutes or so in that game. And for me, I know that was a dream come true there, and I just enjoyed every last second to that 25 or 24 minutes or whatever that I played.
I think the whole country did.
Boy,
Yes.
you don't know how many arguments that whole playing Russell, not playing caused. And there are a lot of people now who are going to listen to this and still insist that
90 minutes, all three games.
that you were supposed to play 90 minutes, all three games. Even before I heard this from you, Russell, my take on the thing was this. Exactly what you said in terms of your age and being able to play at that pace for 90 minutes. I didn't think you had it in your legs. I didn't think, as you said, with the sending off in the first game that it was possible to bring you on. As a matter of fact, Beenhakker did something in that game that, now that you're into coaching and you look at it.
The corner glance up.
Yeah, that is a move of gigantic balls that he made at that point in time. I agree with you with the England game. In that I felt that in that game, and for a different reason that you just put forward in terms of coming on and you would be able to dictate the pace of the game. I just thought when Sven-Göran Eriksson went to moving Beckham to almost a right back position, I just felt if we had somebody on the field who could have gotten the ball and release
remember he brought on Evans Wise on the left flank in that game.
Right. But I was thinking one of our options was not bringing on Evans there, but bringing on somebody who could release somebody. We didn't have anybody on the field at that time. We were backs to the wall at that time.
Right, yeah.
And I just felt that was an opportunity, the same way that he used Cornell Glenn to force Sweden to defend by scaring them.
Yeah.
Was another opportunity to do it with Russell. Right? Again, that is hindsight. That is, I say now in my living room, I could talk that.
Yeah.
Right? In the heat of the moment. But just saying, as far as Trinidad is concerned, all of those things that we just spoke don't matter. Russell Latapy was supposed to play 270 minutes, and anybody who didn't do that.
The thing is as well, and at the time, I obviously an experienced pro. So once I had that conversation with Coach Leo, and he decided that he wanted to take me, I started to get myself ready. So I was down to my perfect playing weight. I got myself fit. I was rested. So yeah, I was ready. I can remember now in some of the fitness work that I was having better times than some of the younger players. But again, that's experience with being a pro and experienced pro and knowing that okay, you're getting ready for competition and know how to prepare yourself.
All right. As you moved on into coaching, what bits did you take from the different coaches you yourself played under?
There is a lot of things, and that added to doing coaching certification and qualification. Just teaches you how to go about things. I think that we all have a philosophy or idea of how we want football to be played or what we think football should be, and I think coaching is getting this over to the players and they having an understanding of it. That is good enough that they're able to execute it and and identify it and coach it for themselves.
Russell, earlier on you spoke about playing at Falkirk and coaching the reserve team. How did that impact on your growth? I mean, a lot of people go and do courses and then they don't have a team to coach. Tell me, how that helped you.
No, that was so important, especially some of the courses that I was doing at the time. That some if you're not coaching a team, then you're not gonna get through with some of these courses, because it's constant work that you need to be doing on a daily basis. So it was important for me to have the experience and a team to work with as soon as I was doing something in the course, or there was a doubt, or I did something on the first team that I thought was a bit different, or I was allowed to experiment and do things without real serious consequences. If that makes sense.
No, it does. It does. To let the listeners know, you came in at the FIFA Pro level into coaching, or what was your route into coaching? Like, for example, somebody like me would have to come all the way up the ladder from C all the way up. What entry point you came in at?
I came in at B.
All right.
Right. At the UEFA B.
Right.
And how it works and not C is because and I don't remember the exact number now, but I think, I don't know if it was 30 or 40, but once you have that amount of international games, football as a player, then you get past C straight away, and you go on into B, and then and the B license, when I did it at the time, it took me 16 months.
Right. Yeah.
Right. And then I did the A license, which was another 18 months. And then I did the pro license, which was another 16 months as well.
Wow.
Yeah. So this was the time that it took back in the day.
Like going to medical school.
Pretty much.
Remember how long Coach Hart said?
So I'm happy that you say that, because sometimes when we say things, we actually know what we're talking about.
That's the thing. That's the thing. As far as people.
He said people, eh? He said people by looking at me, eh?
As far as people concerned, a coach only knows what he's saying when he wins, Other than that, you don't have a clue what you're doing. Let me ask you something, Russell, related to your coaching as well. So you've just finished playing, you're doing your courses, and you get the offer of the Trinidad and Tobago senior job. Did you have any reservations taking that job in terms of you were going back to coach players who you would have played with as well?
Well, remember his assistant too, huh?
Yeah. When I came back,
So all of that plays into it. As assistant coach, did you have any reservations based on what I asked here? The fact that some of the players, or a good number of the players, are players that you just finished playing with.
Yeah. No, not at all. No reservations at all. This was 2009, and remember that I'm a young coach. I'm coaching a club team. I'm getting the opportunity to come back and be part of my national team setup. Who 3 years ago actually went to a World Cup, I'm thinking that my purpose is to come and help improve the whole setup and hopefully qualify for the next 5 or 6 World Cups. I mean, that's the mindset that you have as a young coach coming in. And in hindsight, I think that is the only way to think. But with experience, you look for a better support system in place that would allow you to achieve some of the success that you dream of.
How easy was it to integrate into Coach Maturana's
I want to hear more about our support system after, but go ahead, Barney.
He want to go down the route of TTFA and thing, and I trying to say on the football, brother. Because you would appreciate a coach likes to work with his own staff.
Yeah.
Right. So you are somebody who's been added to his staff and taken up a very important position. How was that integration?
No, I think coaches and this is my take on it. Like Francisco, he welcomed me with open arms. I think we have coaches who go somewhere and they go with the sole purpose of earning money, and I think you have other coaches who go to places, and I think their main objective, obviously, they have to make their money because it's part of the job. But I think their main objective is really to help with the development of the game and individuals and the association. And I think Francisco was like that. My relationship with him anyway. So he welcomed me with open arms, and there was a lot of things that I learned from him. I think it was a bit easier because his English wasn't great, and my understanding of Spanish is not too bad. So I think that made it a bit easier for him, and I thoroughly enjoyed working with him. It was unfortunate how things ended for him, but again, I think it was a time where our football was starting to change as well. So and then it just snowballed after that.
Now, you started off quite well as head coach, Guatemala, the Mexico results and everything else. And then you had the Caribbean Cup, which should have been a disappointment, I think. You mentioned the issues with the support. You could explain what happened at that point in time? What went wrong?
Yeah. When I mentioned support, right, I think the players needs and wants to be comfortable, and it's important for the coach that you're working with players who work with a free mind, who are allowed to be committed and give everything to the national effort. I think if you don't have a support system in place that allows the players to do that, it can become very difficult, and the focus moves away from football to other things that doesn't help in achieving results.
Fair enough.
That good enough for you?
I can live with that.
Thanks. All right. It's just drama. This man want to take me down.
We had. I don't know. I think you guys would know, but we had a difficult time around that period, and it was and I think it's only fair that I say this, right? It was a difficult period, and there was a lot of negotiations concerning bonuses and that sort of thing, and money issues. And again, I see this as twofold, right? And two different sides of the coin. And one is that I think it's the association's responsibility to provide the best possible situation for players to do their best. If that's in terms of nutrition and rest and travel, I think that's the association's responsibility. But I also think that around this period as well, we were having issues with a lot of players and their demands in terms of bonuses. And I think some of that was a fallout of the bonuses that was paid during the World Cup. But again, that was because we qualified for the World Cup. And then we had quite a few young players coming in and getting, not young only, but new players coming into the frame. And they were getting a lot of caught up with bonuses based on what they hear people earn at the time, and they were really in asking for things that they didn't earn, if that makes sense to you. And I think and I think that's a really difficult situation.
You think there's a breakdown in relations between the administration and the players since 2006 that probably hasn't been mended? I don't know if it's been mended even now. Was it ever? Did we ever had a workable relationship with the players and administrators?
Yeah, I think in my time we had fairly professional relationships that we understood that it was difficult on both sides, and then we found a way to come together somewhere in the middle there that both parties were satisfied and could move on and be fully committed, right? I think when you continue to be disappointed by administrators, I think that makes it very difficult to have confidence and build or develop any sort of relationship or trust.
Okay. Well, and you said as a coach, growing up as a coach now, you're learning all the time. You mentioned man management and so on. Talk about some of the things you think you've really added to your repertoire as a coach.
I think for me it's just really experience and being able to read situations. I think and again I think Barney mentioned it a while ago that the whole Cornell Glenn substitution. I think situations like this teaches you a lot in football, because then you get yourself in situations like that. And what Leo did with Cornell Glenn, a lot of teams when they're going for a win, they take off a center half or a defender and they put on another striker. And what the other team automatically does is that they take off a forward and they put on a center back as well. And then you have all the pressure close to your goal. I think what Leo did with Cornell is that he put on a quick striker who could exploit the spaces that is left by that missing defender that you take off, right? And really these kind of experiences, once you get yourself in positions like that for some time, it kind of teaches you how and when to use things like this. I think my philosophy in the game and how I want the game to be played, how I want my teams to play, I don't think that has changed a lot. Too much. I think I'm very equipped now with showing my players and explaining to my players how to execute exactly how I see we should play based on our strengths and weaknesses.
Okay. Now you broke Stern John's heart kind of late in the last game, and we reading about all these players that could come to play for Barbados, Ryan Brewster and let me hear the mind games they have now for Lacho and Dominica, essentially.
No,
the mind game start already?
No, listen, I think I am really happy that, I kind of look at Portugal in Europe and I look at their coaches and they're all over Europe. And I'm kind of looking at Trinidad now in the Caribbean here and seeing that we have our coaches in different places, and there's some that I'm really proud about. So I'm looking forward to this game. Again, it is not in our hands really, because we have two teams in the group who won 6 points from 2 games with 2 games remaining. So I think for us, we're gonna go out and try to impose ourselves. I think if we can get our process right, and form our identity and establish it really strong, then it would make us a better team in the long run. And for me, the whole process is about developing the way that we want to play. And I think if we can do that with the players that we have, and we can improve on that, then I think we can make ourselves difficult to beat. And that's a good place for me to start. But I also want to say though that it's a bit of a fine balancing act, because what we have is we have a group of local players who've made a lot of sacrifices and worked really hard to get us to where we are now. And I think that they also deserve the opportunity to play at the highest level. So then it really comes down to making good decisions, and having time on the pitch to work with players to see who is really the best man for the job.
Yeah, I have no problem with foreign based players coming back to take part in the campaign. I have a problem with the Bobby Zamoras showing up when the team qualify and saying that they feel very Trinidadian. That's been my problem.
I hear you. Yeah. I hear you loud and clear.
Anyway, brother, as always, it's nice talking to you. Say nothing.
Same here, guys.
Lining up to say something.
Man, you get to close it down here now, Russell. You get to close it down finally. Close them down there, buddy.
Listen, that wasn't possible when I was younger, when I had knees. Now in the 11th hour of my life, you ask me to do this? No. Russell, I wish you all the best. Just like you, I am, just like what you said, I am very proud of yourself, Stern, Lacho,
Akila Mullen.
I would say Shabazz as well, but Shabazz, the country Shabazz looking to coach, they're not really on that football thing right now. But continue flying the flag high, brother. And I really wish you success in your efforts going forward. You've been a great ambassador for Trinidad and Tobago. You have been a great ambassador for every level of football that you have taken part in. I appreciate the fact that, unlike the stories these fellas painted, you didn't feed into that nonsense.
You don't need to. It's boots that he talking already. You know, so.
Brother, all the best, and we definitely need to have you back on the show. This hour and a half in long enough for all that I had to ask you. Right?
Listen, thanks for having me, guys. And listen, once I start talking, I can't stop, right? So,
yeah, but it's to get it to start, bro.
I'm happy to spend another hour with you guys.
It's to get it to start. It's about 4 months now. I beg you to come on the show.
That's the problem, to lock me down.
About 40 years now, Barney trying, but...
Oh, gosh. Hey.
But thanks again, Russell.
Yeah, Russell. Take care.
Okay, cheers, guys. Have a good night.
Okay, good night.
Yes.
Yeah, so what we have to say, I always believe in being punctual, I believe.
This is so unfair, man. This is so unfair.
Listeners will have to forgive my co-host.
Trinidad, listen. Russell Latapy was in conversation with Lasana Liebird, and they decided on a time of doing the interview today. However, that time does not match up with the traffic situation in Trinidad and Tobago. Shut up. Let me just
I should have started with... That should have started with, well, what happened was...
I left home and was making very good time towards my destination. And then there was some police exercise accident, something on the highway, and that's what played into it. Normally, I'm a punctual guy. The funny thing is, the guy who's never punctual, and let me tell you this, the time that he started the discussion with Russell is a half an hour later than the time they agreed to. Why? Because he was a half an hour late.
I had traffic too. I just navigated it in a more skillful, dexterous. Producer. Producer.
And there, that was brought to you courtesy the fine folks at CIC.
Let Earl best hear our word, boy.
Earl, who we going to send you this one?
Anyway.
Who we interview next? Let the nation know.
Okay. We will be interviewing. Maybe we'll let you all help us pick our next guest. We'll talk about that.
I know who we should interview.
Who should interview next?
The person we interview next.
Okay, and this is Burdie.
And this is Barney.
And we're out.
People like it on the cool down in the bath. People like it on the time they hear the track. People like it when you hand up in the air. People like it cause they know we gon' play this year. Cause it's too much war amongst the stars. War amongst the stars.